Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zobrio University's IT webinar on protecting your data from email-borne threats. Today we have John Quatto, an account executive here at Zobrio, to lead the webinar. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We will go over all questions at the end. Thank you, and I'll now hand over hosting to John.
Thank you, everyone, and we appreciate you joining us. This is a topic that we've sort of touched on a little bit in some of our previous webinars, talking about securing the new normal and how we handle things in the what is to come after the pandemic. But one of the things we've noticed that especially during the pandemic, phishing attacks have increased dramatically, and so we're going to focus on phishing and email-borne threats. So as we begin, just want to talk to you about, here's just showing you it's a quick news articles about local government and education, mostly customers that have been attacked by either ransomware, phishing emails, and all the different types of malware. So these are just a couple of articles. These are just a couple of headlines to show you that it not only does it happen, in New York and Los Angeles, Atlanta. This also happens here closer to home in Illinois, Missouri, Massachusetts. So that's just a quick update on some of the recent ransomware, and that it does happen in local government offices. We have seen as we do all kinds of IT for both local governments and small, medium business, different kinds of business, but we've seen a big increase in phishing attacks and other malware in the government sector. So this is a problem in government. This is a problem that you should know and be able to prepare for. So we've seen an increase in these types of vulnerabilities. Starting, it was about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, where these attacks have increased. You heard a lot about ransomware. You heard a lot about different kind of Trojans and viruses prior. But over the last year, last couple of years, we've seen an increase in phishing type of emails. So here is a slide, and it shows you that 52% of the attacks, over half, and as we're getting the data, it's probably even going to increase more when they've taken a look at more recent data, against organizations begin with phishing emails. Phishing and email-borne malware is the biggest increase. Again, it was on the rise before. Once the pandemic hit, it exploded because here's a little quick definition of phishing and spear-phishing. Spear-phishing is what we see. Spear-phishing is what is sort of the point of attack. But what these phishing attacks are attacks that are targeted toward individuals. So it's a target attack to an individual. For instance, in email takeovers and in these types of attacks, what they'll do is they'll look at, for instance, the mayor, the county administrator, somebody in a county board member, head chairman of the board, somebody in authority. They'll find, they may spoof their email, and it may look like it comes like for us. It may look an email from our CEO that says, hey, go out and purchase Visa gift cards. And of course, you're purchasing it, and then you're going to send it to a site, for us for a trade show or something like this. A lot of times the target of these phishing emails, as we go and we take a look, the target of these phishing emails our director of finance, someone that treasurer, someone that is involved in the financial end of it. So those are often attacks, but it goes to everybody across the board, all employees. So it comes from, they will often spoof an email coming from someone of authority in your company. So obviously our company, the CEO tells me to do something, boom. Of course, you're going to run out and do it because it's coming from the boss. So that's part of the whole lure of this, but there's other types as well. So we'll get into it. I'll show you these other types of phishing, but this is definitely something to keep your eye on. This is something to, be aware. One of the big things is awareness. As I alluded to earlier, you can see the number of spear phishing attacks in 2020. You look at March and it starts increasing, and this goes to April, but as we've seen further data come through, it's only increased. If you see the dramatic increase in March and April, that's when the pandemic hit the most. So a lot of times, another type of email that we find is people using COVID-related items to sneak their email through. For instance, a lot of times counties. For instance, in Illinois, the state, has gotten money from the federal government, and the state hands out the COVID money. Well, it may look like it's coming from a state agency. They spoof that. They say, to get your money, here's what you have to do. Click on this link. The difference in phishing emails and ransomware type emails is that the ransomware and some of the other types of attacks have payloads. With payloads, they're loaded this this malware on there. You click on it, boom, it expands and it goes out in your network and locks all your information down. And that's oftentimes caught by your firewall, your antivirus, this type of stuff. That is something that's often caught. So one of the unique things about phishing emails is that these aren't often caught. So these are by traditional antivirus and firewalls. So it's a whole new concept that we're addressing and that we're seeing right now. We talk about, so these don't have a payload, but what they do is they have a link in there. You go to the link, then the virus comes on. So why these aren't detected is you're having to, the employee has to make that step. He has to go in and, or it gives them a directive that's not, it doesn't have a traditional payload. So these are personalized. One of the things that we mentioned is this will come to you from someone else. So oftentimes, and this isn't the exclusive way, but what's very common is it's targeted to you, it's specific. I know an example that we've heard from one of the FBI profilers that was looking at this, gave a note of a company that the CEO was going to China, for instance. So the CEO went to China. They found the CEO's schedule. They knew he was out of town, spoofed his email to the director, and they basically found he was out of town in China. They used that information to make the attack more personal. When they asked the director of finance to, we need to, for this venture that I'm doing, we need blah, 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 so many millions of dollars, please wire to this bank in China where I am. Well, obviously he wired it to China and boom, it was complete spoof. CEO wasn't there, so he may not have been able to get in contact. So they oftentimes, you notice now when they get into your system, they not only see your emails, but they also see your schedules. So that's how they can personalize a little bit. So we look at it, and one of the here's a quick little pie chart. Scamming is the big one. So again, you click on this, and send money here, or for instance, potentially send go get a Visa card. There's also brand impersonation. Something's coming. Again, we talked about a government agency. Sometimes it looks like it's coming from Google. Sometimes it looks like it's coming from Microsoft, and they're asking you to take certain action. Change your password. Trying to get your passwords. Again, this gets in. Blackmailing. Sometimes they, they say your computer has been attacked. Here, you employee, not your company, send us X amount of money, and your boss will not find out about that. So that's an option. And business email compromise is when they may take your email and they take over your email and look like they're sending an email. We all had that in the personal, social media. You're a friend with somebody and they send you another friend request, but it's not them. It's somebody else spoofing that. That's sort of the way. But when you talk about it from a business email, they may be asking for money. They may be asking for things on your behalf. These attacks aren't cheap. There's a huge risk to your business. There's a huge possible loss of reputation afterwards. First of all, you could lose data that's you have in the public trust or that you're keeping secure. There's downtime, lost productivity as your IT company comes in, has to clean that out. There's a disruption of work. You've got to then rebuild everything. It takes a long time, a lot of money to recover. You could lose data, you could lose information, you could lose tons of things. You might have to buy new hardware. You may have to pay overtime for your employees. And don't forget, there's a potential loss of reputation or potential loss of public trust. Gartner, which is a respected resource in the IT world, has made a recommendation. Gartner reviews different vendors, different solutions, and their recommendation here is to upgrade and secure email gateway solutions to include advanced phishing protection, imposter detection, and internal email protection. So that's exactly, and I hate to read the slides, but that's exactly what they said, word for word. And they are looking to do more than just traditional antivirus. What they're saying is there needs to be something more. There needs to be a solution targeted to protect this email. So if you think about this email, you get hundreds of emails a day. There's tons of people, and everybody knows that person in the office that will click on something no matter what, right? I mean, we can all see that person, oh yeah, the weakest link, right? We've seen different counties that did that an email came to a evening security officer in a county, and they clicked on a link, and boom, they exposed the county's all their IT environment, all their hardware to malware, and cost a fortune. Not to mention, again, the reputation. The FBI comes in, they take all the computers, and just things that you don't necessarily want to have to deal with. There's a component of an email protection plan. So just wanted to get in toward the end here. We talk about the threat, we talk how big it is, but there's some solutions out there that can help you. Email, Office 365, Google is another source, but online emails are really a good option. There's built-in securities and built-in solutions to help protect your email from some of the scams. It also protects your email from additional spam, anti-spam, And there are tools that work in conjunction with these emails that will help it as well. So when they talk about gateway defense, that's more of like your, you're talking about your firewall, your antivirus that stops things before they come in. There's always, as we call the last, I call it the keep of the castle, is backup. Backup is, at this point, is so essential, not only for the convenience and being able to restore data in the case of a disaster, but in the case of an email takeover or malware, backup becomes a key important issue. So you may have to, for instance, if there's ransomware, sometimes it doesn't click off for 2 weeks. So once that clicks off, and makes itself known, you may have to go back to your backup. You may lose some data, but you're not going to lose everything. You're not going to use years of data. You may lose 30 days or something, or 2 weeks, but you're not going to use years. You've got a resource if you have a good recoverable backup. Next month, we're going to be talking in this session, we're going to be talking about backup and some tips for backup in this time. AI, artificial intelligence. There are AI, artificial intelligence that help protect your email, specifically for your email against spear-phishing. Also, DMARC. DMARC is your domain. Sometimes they'll take over your domain. So the whole domain, the domain of Zobrio.com, and then send emails out there. And you want to keep your domain protected as well. Also, call this the human firewall. But what this is training. Again, we've had customers that go and that the FBI has come in. They've done a testing, and for governments, they will do this. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, comes in and does some testing. And what they find consistently is that employee clicking on a particular link or exposure of an employee having different authorities that they may need is a big issue. It's a big issue, and it comes up all the time. So that's one thing. And I think the best source to do that is educating and training your employees. Oh, sorry. I noticed all of a sudden my phone went on mute. But I apologize. These, technology is wonderful, but sometimes they take on a life of its own. But as we're talking about education. So educating your employees and training them. A lot of times, for instance, the government will require an agency that has, for instance, criminal background check to do some security awareness training that have criminal information. But also, security awareness training is a good training and good policy for everyone. What we use is an automated, it's an automated security awareness training. Basically, monthly, it sends out small different modules that your employees can take. They can learn about doing a good password, learning about some of the email malware that's out. Again, protecting your data, how to do this. They also send out tests. So they'll send a email that could be a phishing email. It's not really, they call it the ethical hackers. It's that type of good way of testing that if somebody clicks on it, you get a report. So many people clicked on it. You also get a report because one of the parts of security awareness training is a lot of the agencies that do this and require this are asking you to have a report. This person at this mailbox took security training this month. And it's monthly. It's in modules so that you don't necessarily have to take it right away. So this is the last part, is there are better ways to train employees in traditional classroom style education. Again, during the pandemic, classroom style education is really impossible. Also for government and a lot of businesses that have multiple shifts, classroom training becomes a very expensive and very hard to get everybody on the same page. So you want the employees to be able to take it when they have time to do that. There's a little bit talking about our training awareness. We talk about training, simulation. Simulation is those emails that come out and simulate a phishing email. And then finally, analysis. Someone needs to be able to get a report to see, not only for the agency to show that training happens, but also, maybe an employee is consistently clicking on the wrong thing. Once an employee clicks on the wrong thing in this type of security awareness training, they'll send a module out for that thing that this employee has. It's really a good thing. Our company uses it. Many of our governments and businesses also utilize this type of training just out of the convenience, the ability to report, and simulation and testing is important as well. What we always say when we always talk about security is we talk about a multi-layered strategy. So for email security, it's best to have the spear-phishing detection, which I sort of talked about that, the artificial intelligence that operates in the background that prevents this. And we were just amazed at what kind of results we saw. Incident response, to have somebody in IT, you can go ahead and talk to them and let them know the incident so they can block that website. Oftentimes encryption is very important when you're sending secure things out. You have the ability to encrypt your email. Security awareness training, we just talked about that. That's important, but also business continuity. Again, we're going to talk about this in next month. So if that's something, definitely stay tuned. You need to have a good backup. And when I say a good backup is a backup that goes to the cloud as well as a local backup. We find that to be the most efficient. And then finally, also, you need to test that backup to make sure that your data is back up. They call it backup and recovery. Data might be backed up, but is it recoverable when you need it? That's really key and important. So if there are any questions, Colleen, do you have any questions? If you need any information on the things that I talk about, please feel free to email me or to call me, and we'll be more than happy to discuss this with you at a different time. But we just wanted to bring this really very important threats to your attention. Colleen?
Hi everyone. I don't see any questions, so I think I'm just going to wrap it up. But thank you everyone for joining us, and a recording of this webinar will be made available shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.